so much other meaningful work, from doing rebuilds and repairs to their restore, to the way I know you guys have pivoted in the last few months using trucks to deliver all sorts of other stuff. So I thought we'd have Chris on today to talk a little bit about such a basic human need. You know, I was just complaining about not having power last week, but you know, for most of us who are stuck at home throughout this pandemic and quarantine, the imperative word there is home. We have a home to be stuck in, which while an inconvenience is certainly a luxury that so many folks you know, don't have. And unfortunately, perhaps because of the economic impacts of all that we're living through, you know, fewer folks may have when we come through this. So Chris, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Maybe let's start, like, you know, give us like the Habitat Stump speech, right? What we know, what we don't know.
Yeah.
What do you do all day?
Thank you. Well, it's such an honor to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I moved out from Iowa 11 years ago. Was gonna check out LA and Habitat for a year, and I caught habititis, as we affectionately call it, and been with.
Is there a vaccine for that yet?
Yeah, we're still trying to find one, but we hope others catch it too, actually. So, but yeah, it's been a great run, and yeah, just love the mission. You know, we started in the 70s in the South, and pretty quickly spread across the country. We started in LA in 1990, so it's our 30th anniversary this year, and we've grown all over the world now too. So we're in 70 countries, and just a really simple idea that, you know, everybody in need, you know, deserves a decent place to call home. And yeah, every day through, you know, the last, you know, 40 plus years around the world, we just try to get up every day and go out there, you know, bring communities, all backgrounds, all walks of life together, you know, and from a faith perspective, to really, you know, live out that faith, to really put that into action, and see the fruits of that grow by handing over keys and serving low income families in need. Specifically, like, you know, you asked about, like, what's it take to be a new home buyer here in the Los Angeles area, and we know.
Well, and I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah,
I'm going to interrupt you because you just said home buyer. I think that's something people don't really realize.
Yeah. So this is an ownership program, is what Habitat, you know, does, and so we try to team up with, you know, organizations that work with, you know, the homeless or transitional housing. Where, you know, we're trying to create kind of a spectrum where, you know, over the course of several years, we could potentially take people from homelessness to home ownership. But the Habitat program is really focused in on, you know, people making 30 to 80% of the area median income, because they do actually pay back like a 30-year mortgage that helps to build and repair more Habitat homes around the city. And it's not like a regular mortgage, it's an affordable mortgage. We set it up so they're never paying more than about a third of their total income toward a housing payment each month. But, you know, when the average cost of a home in LA County right now is around $550,000, you know, to be able to, you know, pay back a third of that and over 30 years for your housing payment, what a transformation that does for you and your family. I mean, it allows your kids, you know, to grow up in a Habitat home, and, you know, studies show that they're more likely to be homeowners and go on to college, and, you know, even get advanced degrees if they grow up in a home that they own. And just the standard of living too. I mean, the tens of thousands of families that, again, are working hard in LA right now, but just the income isn't, you know, high enough to be able to ever have a dream to own a home. And so they settle for living in, you know, small 1-bedroom studio apartments that might have, you know, different types of problems in it. And then they have to raise their kids in overcrowded conditions. And it's just really hard to break that cycle of poverty. And so, yeah, here in LA for 30 years, we've just slowly seen what we can do to serve those families. And actually, as part of our Culver City build, this summer and fall, we completed our 1,000th home, which is a big milestone for us to do. And so, yeah, the home ownership program, it works great. We have a less than 0.5% default rate, and we feel that that's a combination of how the financial system is set up, and We also have all of our families put in hundreds of hours of sweat equity before they move into their home. They take classes, so they're educated about the differences between renting and home ownership. And then we just, our board makes the final selection of the families, and they take a look at the conditions they're living in and what they think a Habitat home would mean to them. And it never gets old. When you are at the dedication ceremony, cutting the ribbon, handing over the keys, and you just know that another family has forever been changed and lifted out of this cycle of poverty. It's really a beautiful thing, and I've had the chance to obviously help on a lot of homes in the LA region, but I've also traveled to Africa a couple times, and Central, South America, Southeast Asia as well, and all over the world. It's you have to bring the Kleenex, because when you do hand the keys over, it's a pretty emotional thing, knowing that you're forever changing the lives of families. And so that's our main program. But Rabbi Shapiro, do you want me to go into a little detail
before you keep going, Chris? A couple questions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I want to speak, and then I want to hear a little bit more about Culver City, just because I know that it was different in a lot of ways from other builds. But so how do you guys acquire land, particularly in a place like LA, where, as we all know, right, there's a scarcity, and even if there's not a scarcity, it's not cheap. Does Habitat purchase land? Is land given to Habitat by municipalities? How does that work?
Most common way is working with cities or the county to acquire land. So the Culver City Build for Interest, we partnered with the city of Culver City. We're doing a number of sites in the South Los Angeles region right now, and we worked with Mark Ridley Thomas's office in the county to acquire the land there. Municipalities typically have goals or objectives, or sometimes even requirements, to build a certain number of affordable units. And so Habitat's just a natural partner for them to help in that efforts. Sometimes we do purchase land. We found about an acre down in Long Beach that it'll be one of those multi-year projects, but we're going to be able to build 38 units on that eventually, of affordable home ownership. And that one we were able to buy. So it does happen, but more often than not, we're working with city or county government to acquire the land.
So the Culver City build, I think, was, for me anyway, and we've done, I don't know, half a dozen of these now.
Yeah.
But the Culver City build to me was almost astonishing for a few reasons. One, and I've always felt, for folks who haven't been on a build, this is a home that you would live in. The fit and finish and the quality of the home, this is a home that you'd be happy to live in. But that, we've done builds in the Inland Empire and in Bellflower and wherever, but the Culver City build is smack dab in the middle of West LA. It's 10 minutes from the Irma's campus, right off Washington by Tito's Tacos.
Yep. And
I think that's not what people usually think of when they think of a Habitat build site. Right. I just, for fun, maybe a month or two ago, I did it when we first went to visit the site before there was anything there, and looked up kind of what these houses on the block market rate was.
Yep.
And I looked about a month ago, but I mean, you probably know the exact number. I think those 10 houses, $1.5 million, $1.6 million a piece, probably. Yeah, if it was to be sold at market rate, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, so, and I know I met some of the families that ended up being recipients of those homes, homeowners of those homes. But for that build, did the profile of the homeowner, was that any different? Simply because, there are plenty of folks that can't afford a house in West LA at $1.5 million. Right. Yeah. Plenty of people who work in Culver City, firefighters and cops and teachers who can't afford a house at $1.5 million in West LA.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was a very unique opportunity. If you look at the 1,000 homes that we've done over the years, that was literally, I think, one of 2 or 3 that's been done west of the 405. And so, like, literally it was just west of the
barely.
405.
Just barely.
But it counted. And so, yeah, the overall costs, as you mentioned, I think it was probably closer to $1 million than $1.5 million on the price when we had it appraised. But yeah, you're right. It was twice as much as a regular house, which is always weird for me because, 5 miles east, it's a whole new boat. But anyway, so yeah, this was a mixed income development for us. And so it's another type of
10 houses, right?
Yeah, 10 homes. And so 4 of the 10 families were just, like regular habitat, home buyers. And so 30 to 80% of the area median income. Now the median income in Culver City is different than the median income in, South Los Angeles, so to speak. So that made it, possible for, lower income families. And then 4 more were kind of mid-level income, which means 80 to 120%. And then the last 2 were what's called workforce housing. And so it's not quite market rate, but there's another level in between. And so we were able to, reach out to our firefighters, our police officers, our teachers, 2 families there. And I've been a part of a lot of builds. This was definitely one of my favorite. And I think part of it was that it was, really uniting around this idea where, regardless of your income, your race, your religion, like we could really bring, all groups together. And, my hope is that it'll serve as kind of a shining example of what could be possible in all parts of the city, which I believe, if we're ever going to, truly make a dent in this housing crisis in our county, we just can't, go to South LA or East LA or, parts of the San Fernando Valley to build, all the affordable housing that's needed. We really need all parts of the city to rally together to make it possible. So yeah, it was definitely a unique build, but at the end of the day, we now 9 of the 10 families have closed escrow, and the 10th one is very close, and so that neighborhood is nearly completed, which is great.
And it's neither here nor there, but if I remember correctly, I don't know if it ended up being the case, but I remember early on you were telling me that you thought you were going to have your first Jewish family as a homeowner.
Yep.
On that project. Did that end up happening?
It did. And they're the
I just think it's interesting. I mean, it doesn't matter.
No,
but
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, they're the 10th family. So it's the father is Jewish and the mother is Catholic. So we've gotten to see our interfaith work come together there. But yeah, we were thrilled. We had about 50 different congregations, a number of synagogues and a lot of churches, especially rally around this build. And to my knowledge, that was our first, Jewish family that we were able to serve. And but we hope there'll be many more. And that's always a way that, if folks know, people within their synagogue or other facets of their life, just to mention habitat as a possibility if they're living in a tough housing situation right now or need repair work done on their existing home, that we're always here. And we often do find a lot of our families from our faith partners around the city.
Tell us more about the repair work, because I don't think people know about that.
Yeah. So we, I think about 12, 13 years ago, we have larger, big work projects sometimes, periodically. And, we get a lot of feedback that, new homes, they take a while, sometimes years, but there's so many homes that we just did a little upkeep on them that could, expand their life and allow families, especially seniors and veterans, and others, be able to stay in their home even longer. And so we launched a habitat repair program that does everything from putting a new roof on, a new coat of paint, replacing windows and doors. For our veterans, if they need some structural adjustments on the inside to move around better, we can go in and do that. There's just a number of different areas that we've been able to provide even more, families with help with over the years. And then most recently, unfortunately, there's been just devastating wildfires for several years in a row now. And we thought, well, this could be another area that we could, especially for lower income families in need, we could go in and help sometimes do a complete rehab on their home if it was basically lost. We're about to start a project up in the Lakeview Terrace area from a fire a couple of years ago for a family up there, or just maybe they had smoke damage and need a new coat of paint or things like that. So we've added wildfire relief efforts over the last couple of years as well. Been able to work with the state on some relief funding from them and other partners as well to again, just I think the building and the repairing is so helpful and great. But I think another thing Habitat does so well is it gives people hope. It gives communities hope and a chance to go out there and see that they're tangibly doing something. And so that's been, we had a coalition of Presbyterian churches go out to Agora Hills area. There was a trailer park out there that was just half of it was basically wiped out, and so we were able to spend a day of service around Thanksgiving last year and really help that community to feel a little bit better and help improve many of the trailers again. So things like that I think really make an impact for our repair program.
And then, like, I know I not so much these days because I'm spending way more time at home, but I used to drive past the Restore on La Brea a fair amount on the way to and from Temple. Tell us about that.
Yeah. We would get, and this is, I think, in the early 2000s, not only in LA, but around the country, we get a lot of calls. Hey, here you're building new homes and I've got a couch. Can one of the families use it? And Habitats, we love that Extreme Makeover Home Edition show where they, furnish new homes and things like that. But Habitat doesn't, furnish our homes. And so we would turn a lot of donation for furniture and appliances and things like that down. And then we started thinking, well, like maybe we could actually accept the donations, open what we would call restores around the country, and then sell those, furniture donations, appliances, windows, doors, almost like a Home Depot thrift store is what we started to bring together. And it's worked out amazingly. I think there's over 900 restores open around the country now. Wow. We sell all the items at really reduced prices, which particularly helps lower income families that couldn't afford a new couch or a new appliance or whatever they're looking for. But it's open to the general public, so anybody can come and shop at these stores, and then the funds that are raised there are available to build and repair more homes and help Habitat. And so so
it's basically like a social enterprise.
Exactly. So it
feeds the mission.
Yeah, exactly. So it really helps us for the donations that come in from our partner, so that they know those funds are going directly to help the buyers, because we have things like the Restore that are allowing us to operate as an organization. And so we've got a store, Olympic in La Brea in LA open, one down in Bellflower, and then another in Torrance for our Greater LA chapter. And we're hoping eventually to get one open up. We recently started servicing the San Fernando Valley area as well. So we're hoping to get another store open up there eventually. If you ever have any leads up there that you know of, we're looking for one right now. But
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of office parks that are empty.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. But I love the stores, and even throughout the last 6 months here, we've been considered an essential service organization, and so they've been able to stay open and help during these times. Yeah.
So on that essential service, you guys being an essential service, so what has the last 6 months looked like for you guys? Are you able to keep to be building? I know you had some builds in progress. Are the resources you just said are open? What do you guys, what does COVID life look like for Habitat?
Yeah. Well, I think like, everybody else, we had a plan for 2020 that we changed. And, first we were, are we essential? Can we stay open? And so we spent a lot of time, reaching out to the city and the county, and they said, yes, our restores could stay open as long as we're practicing, 6 feet safety, cleanliness standards and things like that. So that's been great. And then construction wise, as you know, so much of our work is volunteer driven. We have businesses, schools, congregations, community groups out there nearly or 5 days a week typically, and that needed to stop from a volunteer perspective. However, our construction teams have been able to keep working, and so we actually we got the Culver City project done during that time. We completed 4 more homes in South Los Angeles over the last 6 months, and also completed it's called an accessory dwelling unit that we completed in Carson. A new state policy of late has allowed home buyers, homeowners, if they want to build basically like a 450 square foot or so mini house in their backyard, that they can lease out anybody that's interested, but especially beneficial if they'd like to help someone transitioning out of homelessness or having another housing issue. And so we've started to build a few of those, which has been great. So we completed one of those during this time, and then prepping another. But we just started 2 more homes at 111th and Normandy, and getting the first 10 homes in Long Beach going in the next month as well, in addition to keeping our home repair program going as well. So that's been our direct mission. And then even more so, we saw the great needs that were really starting to happen out there. People losing jobs or losing hours, and health concern, getting COVID, and we started to think, these are really the families that we've served over the last 30 years here in Los Angeles. And so we could have sat back and just continued on as usual, but we really felt compelled to let's reach out to all of our families, listen to them, what they're going through, hear their stories. And sure enough, everything from families that had members that had gotten COVID, to had lost jobs, lost hours, struggling with what to do, where to go, and ask them what they needed, and just any help at this time would be great. So we launched a COVID initiative, raise support, if families need help with groceries or utilities, or their kids are at home distance learning now, and there's 3 of them, but they only have 1 computer, so we could help them with getting another computer or a laptop or things like that. So that's definitely kept us busy over the last 6 months. And then 2, I think it's really been, it's so tough to see everything going on out there, but there's always some silver linings, and it's really allowed us to I think serve alongside more of our community and nonprofit partners in a better way. We teamed up with Meals on Wheels to deliver, I think we're up to like 10,000 meals now for seniors, using our restore trucks that we they had a little more time, so we could go and help with things like that. Food delivery. We raised support as a construction company, we have those great N95 masks, and so we raised support, and I think provided, I think it's over 100,000 pieces of PPE to our area healthcare providers and others in need right now. So yeah, I think just wanting to keep the regular part of Habitat going, but also realizing we're in a really unique time with families that we've served over the years that need our help in different ways right now. And so the COVID initiative that we launched has done a lot. It's still growing and developing. As we say, we're putting the plane together up in the air right now. But yeah, totally open to different ideas and ways that we can work with our community partners if they have thoughts or suggestions, ways that they really think are needed right now. We're in this together, and so let's see what we can do.
Well said, Chris. I think it's one of the things that's always struck me about Habitat is how much the organization really does see itself as a part of the community, whatever community it is in which you're working. and that it's about so much more than, building a house. It's really about being a part of that community and helping to uplift it and the people there. I got people in the chat here chomping at the bit with questions, so I'm not going to hold them off.
Let's do it.
So one of Merle's questions, I think, is just because she was a few minutes late coming on because of our technical difficulties, but she wants to know if the mortgages are lower than the average mortgage, which you covered already. Yes, they are. Yep. What happens when they default? You said the default rate's about 1%, 0.5%. Yep. What happens when they do default? And her other question, which I know comes up a lot and I've asked before, is can the family sell the house? And if yep. so, how does that work? What happens? Or does it go to another Habitat family, or can they flip yep. it on the open market? And particularly I asked, I think when we were in Culver right. City on the build, because just because of the economics, the value of those homes, yep. flip that and then buy a house 5 miles east for half the price.
Why not?
Pretty well.
Let's do it. Yeah. So great questions. Default, if the family does default, they which again happens rarely, but we would typically get another Habitat home buyer, into that home. And so we work for as long as we could to try to make, that family, and we really like right now as an example, where, families may be having a hard time paying their mortgage. So we'll work with them as long as we can. If for some reason it doesn't work out, typically we'll get another Habitat home buyer in there. And then, no, families there's certain deed restrictions that are set up. And so, a family can't, for the $1 million Culver City home, just go in and flip that. So how that works is, they pay back about 1/3 of the overall mortgage over 30 years. And the rest is held by other lenders, including Habitat, on what's called like a soft second mortgage, which wouldn't become due unless the family, for whatever reason, needed to move out, which also doesn't happen very often. If they ever did, they would be able to use the equity that they paid, towards their mortgage payment over the years toward, their next, wherever they're moving to. And so they would build that up. And then again, we would allow another family to move, Habitat family to move into whatever house they're moving out on, is how that process works. But yeah, definitely restrictions in place so that you just can't sell the homes after you.
Am I making this up that you guys have like a first right of refusal if they want to sell a house or something like that?
Exactly. Yep. So deed restrictions, like for the Culver City homes, I want to say there's like a 45-year first right of refusal on that one. And so between now and 2065, like Habitat would have the first right on that if a family needed to move out. So
got it.
It's again, our goal has always been to what program can we use that's fair, that's equitable, that can allow hardworking families that just are not, especially in our cities across the country, not ever able to make enough to be able to afford to own a home. How can we create a program and a system that really is, that allows them to do that, and that, does things like, we economically they are built up, but I think, and this is, I think, even more important over the last several months with what's been going on. I think Habitat also helps to eliminate, the systemic racism that has existed in housing, policies for generations through a concept called redlining, which for decades, really allowed, especially when it came to people of color, like they were really put at a disadvantage in terms of not being able to build up, equity similarly to other low or middle class working families around the country. And so I think every time we complete a Habitat project, we're that much closer as well to ending systemic racism when it comes to housing.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Merle has one more question also, just in terms of what's the sort of the parity between Habitat in different cities or even countries. Her question is cities, but does Habitat in LA work the same way as Habitat in Baton Rouge or
Sure.
Nevada?
Yeah,
or Africa?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we operate on a federated model, meaning that Georgia, where we started, they're kind of that's where Habitat International is based out of, and they're kind of our umbrella hub. But every Habitat chapter around the country has its own board, its own senior leadership team, and so we all, there's definitely similarities in terms how affordability is set up and the different programs that we operate. But yeah, because each one is operating under their own board, they all might be a little different. And so LA, for instance, being in the entertainment capital, we've had a Hollywood for Habitat division as part of our LA chapter for 20 years now. Other parts of the country, might utilize whatever they're known for to get involved with Habitat. And so, yeah, definitely similarities, but
Makes sense.
Differences as well. And of course, LA, we feel we're one of the best in the country. So
clearly,
yeah.
I will not to I don't know, be your spokesperson. Having done a few builds in other parts of the country, I will say that at least in my experience, you guys are incredibly well organized and run a really, really tight and good operation. Other questions? Other comments and thoughts folks have? Like a shy group today. I guess the other plug I'll make then. We're working on it. We'll get there eventually, Chris. We don't have another build scheduled yet, but I also think that the kind of cool thing about Habitat from my perspective, and folks who read the temple stuff know that for the last few years anyway, we've always called our Habitat build Jews with tools, kind of as a play on the joke that, a Jew with a hammer is a terrifying thought. But one of the I think pretty special things about a Habitat build is that invariably you come away realizing that you have the skill and ability to do things that you probably didn't think you did before. You'll go home after a build and say, man, I had no idea that I could hang drywall, or I had no idea that I could put in a hardwood floor, or obviously with supervision and instructions. But that, I think, is a pretty special, just on the personal side, experience to get to realize that, you're more capable than you thought, and that you're actually, somebody's going to have a nice hardwood floor in the kitchen because you and a few other people, put it in that day. And I think that's, it's a very different kind of, volunteer experience than volunteering at the car center is, volunteering at our food pantries, or any one of the other million things that we all do under normal circumstances to try to help folks, because it's so tangible. And it's not as hard as you might think to do some of these things. Merle says that she did it for years in Arizona with youth groups, and the kids and the parents came out with tears and a huge sense of accomplishment. Absolutely. It's a special day. We've done it in the rain a couple of times, but it's always a really special day, and a very special experience. And Chris, works really hard to engage faith communities all over the city, all over the county in doing that. And we've been, I guess I'll out it here. We've been, playing with the idea of maybe trying to get a build together with our sister church, with our friends at brothers and sisters at Faithful Central Bible Church. And, maybe when things settle down, we can do that, because I think it's, to roll up your sleeves next to folks and do something together is a really transformative and meaningful experience. So, Chris, thank you. Again, apologies everybody for our little bit of technical glitch, but thank you for being patient and joining us anyway. A Shana Tova, a good and a sweet new year to everyone. Rosh Hashanah beginning Friday night and Saturday and Sunday. We will be here on Tuesday, as usual next week, and hopefully you'll join us. So, Chris, thank you. Look forward to seeing you soon, my friend. And thank you everybody for making a little time to join us.
This has been amazing.
Take care.
A lot to learn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.